Okay, so picture this. Why on earth would you hand over the keys to the entire kingdom when someone literally just needs to open one single door? It's a question that honestly keeps security professionals awake at night. The vast majority of cloud breaches aren't from some sophisticated movie-style hacking. No, they're usually just from compromised, overprivileged accounts. In today's cloud landscape, holding onto a master key isn't just a slight risk, it is absolutely the primary gateway for a catastrophic security breach. But today, we're going to fix that by tapping into the most powerful tool in your access management arsenal, the concept of least privilege, specifically through custom roles. Welcome to this explainer. I am so incredibly thrilled to be guiding you through this journey today. We are completely demystifying Microsoft Entra ID custom roles. And hey, we aren't just going to sit here and talk about high-level theory. We're taking these foundational security concepts and translating them into actual, hands-on configuration steps that you can use to protect your enterprise right now. All right, here's our roadmap for today. We'll be covering first principles, navigating Entra ID, configuring roles, enterprise scenarios, diving into some SC300 exam prep, and capping it all off with a hands-on lab challenge. Section 1. First Principles. Let's start right at the foundation of access management. So before we actually build a role, we really need to understand the underlying mechanics. Role-based access control, or RBAC, is our primary mechanism for controlling access to Azure resources. When you create a role assignment, you're basically combining 4 specific things: a security principal, which is just your user, group, or service, the role information itself, the scope of where it applies, and the type of assignment. This isn't just some dry theory either. This is the exact mathematical formula Entra ID uses to either grant you access or ruthlessly deny your every single click. It's this precise combo that binds a specific user to an exact, non-negotiable set of permissions. Now, Microsoft gives us this ever-expanding list of built-in roles, and they're fantastic for general tasks like your global administrator or user administrator. But built-in roles are exceptionally broad. They're static, they function exactly like a master key to a whole wing of your building. Custom roles, on the other hand, well, that is where the real magic happens. They are granular, incredibly flexible, and cut for one specific lock. Think about how often a tenant-wide master key has led to a massive accidental outage just because someone clicked the wrong button. If you have app developers who only need to manage a tiny subset of app registrations, giving them a built-in master key is a huge, unnecessary risk. Custom roles prevent those accidental disasters by significantly shrinking the blast radius. Moving on to Section 2, Navigating Entra ID. Let's find exactly where this magic happens in the console. Whether you're using the classic Azure Active Directory Admin Center or the newer Microsoft Entra Admin Center, the path is super straightforward. You just expand Azure Active Directory on the left-hand navigation pane, select Roles and Admins, and boom, you uncover the central hub for access management. From this one single pane of glass, you can search for specific roles, review who holds them, and impressively, you can manage up to 5,000 custom roles right within your directory. It is your ultimate access control command center. Section 3, Configuring Roles. It is time to walk through the exact steps to forge your own role. Understanding this high-level creation process is totally crucial, and thankfully it flows really logically. Step 1, open up roles and administrators. Step 2, define the role's identity. Give it a name and explain what it actually does. Step 3 is the big one, selecting those precise, granular permissions. This is exactly where admins tend to mess up, either by giving away too much access just to make things easy, or by accidentally breaking a role because they missed a dependency. We really have to get Step 3 right. And finally, Step 4, just review and create. It's a clean, deliberate process of drawing the boundaries before you ever assign the role to anyone. Let's actually step into the portal and see how this builds. On the Roles and Administrators blade, you'll see all your standard built-in roles listed out: Application Administrator, Application Developer, all the classics. But right up there at the top, we kick off our journey by simply clicking that new Custom Role button. Which brings us straight to the Basics tab. Here, you provide a clear name and description. And listen, please do not skip the description. When another admin, or even you, looks at this role 6 months from now, that description is the only thing explaining why it exists. Without it, you're just leaving a frustrating mystery for your team. Down at the bottom, you'll also notice you get a choice: start completely from scratch, or clone the baseline permissions from an existing role to save a little time. Slowing down for just a second here, because the Permissions tab is the true heart of the matter. This is where you meticulously select only the specific actions this role actually needs to do. Notice that search bar at the top? That is your absolute best friend. Microsoft is constantly expanding the list of available permissions, so you just search for exactly what you need, like reading application policies or updating standard properties. Check those specific boxes and deliberately leave absolutely everything else behind. Section 4. Enterprise Scenarios. Because in the real world, having the right permissions is honestly only half the battle. The other half of that battle is defining exactly where those permissions apply. When you assign a role, you've got to choose the correct scope to truly enforce least privilege. You essentially have two main options. Directory scope is the default, and it broadly blasts those permissions across your entire Azure AD tenant. But usually, you're going to want the second option, administrative unit. This strategically restricts the scope so the administrator only has power over a highly specific, tightly defined subset of objects. For instance, when you're adding assignments, instead of selecting the whole directory, you can intentionally scope a role down to just the sales administrative unit. What that means is the user assigned to this role can perfectly perform their duties for the sales team, but they are completely mathematically blocked from messing with the engineering or HR departments. It's an absolutely perfect real-world example of granular security protecting the wider organization. Section 5. SC300 Exam Prep. For anyone targeting that Microsoft Identity and Access Administrator certification, lean in closely right now. We've got some highly testable concepts to cover. Visually burn this string format right into your memory, microsoft.directory/. The SC300 exam loves asking you to identify these exact permission strings. You really need to know which ones allow roles to create, update, or remove objects. For example, if you see microsoft.directory/users/create, you immediately know it allows the creation of user objects. Basically, if it starts with this base string, it is directly interacting with Azure AD directory objects. It's a key identifier you will for sure be tested on. And from a troubleshooting perspective, these common pitfalls are practically guaranteed to show up on the exam, and honestly, in your daily support tickets. A huge mistake is forgetting about portal restrictions. If you have the tenant-wide setting, restrict access to the Azure AD administration, set to yes, assigning a custom role doesn't magically grant a user a free pass into the portal. You have to plan for that. Other traps include mistakenly assigning a role at the broad directory scope when it should have been limited to an administrative unit, or just blindly cloning an existing role without actually checking its baseline permissions and accidentally giving away the farm. And finally, Section 6, Lab Challenge. Let's put this entire explainer into practice with a real-world challenge. Observe how we'd tackle a real-world developer scenario here. First, on the Basics tab, we name our custom role App Managers and give it a super clear description. Then, hopping directly over to permissions, we use that search box to look for the keyword Manage. We specifically select just the permissions to manage password single sign-on credentials and application provisioning secrets. We are giving our developers exactly what they need to do their jobs and not a single permission more. Once it's reviewed and created, just look at how beautifully it integrates. Your highly specialized App Manager's role sits right there natively in the directory, right alongside all the traditional built-in roles, clearly marked as custom. It is completely ready to be assigned to your developers, giving them the agility they need without ever overexposing your entire tenant. You've officially locked the front door. So, I want to leave you with this quest. Boot up your own demo tenant and build this precise App Manager's role for yourself. Scope it exclusively to a specific administrative unit of your application developers. I challenge you to take total control of your environment today. Because honestly, why rely on a dangerously broad master key when you have the knowledge to forge your own perfect solution? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.